Hello and welcome back to a new video of the XFacts channel. Today we'll discuss a special topic. Is this world real or just a fantasy? Every day when you wake up from your dreams, open your eyes to welcome a new day, have you ever wondered, is it true that you just wake up from a dream? When you walk on the street, seeing other people in front of you, have you ever wondered, do they really exist? Grand Theft Auto is a popular series of action-adventure games in the US, stimulating the real world. By taking the role of a certain character, the player can interact with the virtual world in the game. If the players are different, the game will also have different endings, just like living in the real world. Along with the advanced science and technology, the authenticity of this game is also constantly improving. And here is another question: if there is one day, when human technology is advanced enough, can we create a world, which is exactly like the real world? What happens if the answer is yes? So how can we be sure that the world we are living really exists? In 1974, a scientist carried out an experiment, discovering a phenomenon that should not exist. At that time, everyone thought that this experiment was something wrong. But 46 years have passed and there is still no explanation for the experiment, except this one. Perhaps this world itself is a virtual world. Today we will use science to prove the mysterious unsolved phenomenon in the world. Are we living in a virtual world like a dream? Hypnosis. In 1991, Dr. Michael Talbot published a book called The Holographic Universe. In the book, he mentioned an event, which was in 1970, when he witnessed an unbelievable hypnosis experiment with his own eyes. That day, the hypnotist stood on the podium and asked if anyone in the hall had volunteered to participate in the experiment. It happened that Michael's father's friend, Tom, wanted a try. The hypnotist invited Tom to join the experiment with his daughter, Rala. When Tom entered the hypnosis mode, the hypnotist planted an instruction to Tom that he would not see Rala when he woke up. After that, the hypnotist asked Rala to stand in front of Tom and woke him up. When Tom woke up, he really couldn't see Rala, and even couldn't hear her laugh. Then the hypnotist asked Rala to stand in front of Tom, quickly took out an object from his pocket and placed it behind Rala, and asked Tom if he could see what he was holding. Tom said without hesitation that it was a pocket watch. Then the hypnotist asked Tom to describe the scale, time and engraved characters on the pocket watch, but Tom still said it accurately. This experiment naturally surprised Dr. Michael Talbot. It not only shows that human consciousness can be controlled at will, but also violates common sense in physics. A person who clearly exists is completely transparent in the eyes of another person, and he can even see the things behind him through the person, which is too incomprehensible. This incident naturally made the physics community puzzled. Then some physicists speculated that maybe our world is not a real world, but a virtual world. If our world is really virtual, then everything in this world is just program code. Back to the experiment, perhaps Rala, Tom's daughter, was just a program code. When the instruction deleted the code, the role of daughter no longer existed in Tom's world. That's why Tom was able to transcend the limitations of senses and physical common sense, seeing the pocket watch behind Rala. Those people, who at the time proposed this way of thinking, were ridiculed by mainstream science. It was not until the 21st century, when more video games about the virtual world appeared on the market, that many scientists began to pay attention to the fact that our world could be a virtual world. Virtual game. If this world were virtual, surely many of you would think that it is possible. Our world is so real. But humans feel the world through their senses, and human perception is very unreliable. Let's do some tests. Please look at this picture. Do you feel like it's moving? But strangely enough, when we focus our attention on an area, it will immediately stop moving. Then when we focus on the whole picture, it starts moving again. Now, let's look at another picture. When we look at the small cross in the center of the picture, we will find small bright balls moving around and they are green, right? But when we follow these bright balls, we find that the bright green ball suddenly turns purple. Isn't it magical? The two tests above tell us one thing, that the exist objectively are likely to be misjudged by our brains, and then we'll see things that don't really exist. According to these tests, we can understand that what we think is real, is just an illusion, and this illusion may exist just for you. Now let's talk about GTA. In the virtual game, we can customize the characters. When we control the character who is walking on Road A, we will see everything that exists in Road A as if they were originally there. But in reality, it's because the computer is programmed for you to look at these things, and the computer lets you see it. When you stop looking, those things don't even exist. And that's the point. In 1974, Pier Giorgio Merli, a famous scientist, while researching the nature of light, discovered evidence of the existence of the virtual world. Results should not exist. In 1974, Professor Pier Giorgio Merli did an experiment for his research about the photoelectric effect. Before the experiment, he hypothesized that the particles would travel in a straight line. Normally the particles would pass through the two slits, eventually projecting two lines like two straight slits. But miraculously, the experiment's results showed on the screen many lines that shouldn't be there. Professor Merli was completely dumbfounded. He didn't know how that could be. So he decided to set up a camera during the experiment to observe at a very close distance what happened when the particles passed through the slits. But he could not imagine that this camera would not only fail to answer the existing question but reveal another great mystery. In this experiment, with the same procedure, many lines on the screen suddenly turned into two logical lines. Obviously, when the camera was not installed, there were many straight lines. No matter how many times Merli tried, just when he put the camera on, the results of the experiment would turn into two logical lines. As if the particle knew that someone was looking at it, so it was imperative to obediently express reasonable results. And the results of this experiment were somehow consistent with the model of the GTA video game, which was mentioned above. Even the world that we live in, perhaps has just been revealed when we are looking at it. Awaken. Not long ago, there was an article that caught everyone's attention. A British girl, named Juliana, after an accident about 5 years ago, refused to eat anything. During all the time, her parents did not stop persuading her, even taking her to many doctors, trying their best to hope that she would return to her normal diet. But all their efforts were in vain. Finally, her parents followed the doctor's advice, taking her to a hypnotist, trying to figure out why she wouldn't eat anything. As a result, in a state of hypnosis, Juliana said that there was no food in the world that could be consumed by humans. Even she kept asking why everyone didn't notice. The things that people are holding in their hands don't exist at all, so how can it be considered food to be eaten? Through many treatments, the hypnotist successfully implanted a new subconscious in her brain and told her that things like food are so delicious, humans can't help but eat it. But what Juliana has said somehow makes people curious. Food is not food, food does not exist. What does Juliana mean by saying this? This makes us think of the famous movie, The Matrix, in which people live in a virtual world. They live through the direct supply of nutrition and the body. That's why the so-called food will no longer be needed. In addition to all the above-mentioned stories, in a program organized in 2016, someone put a question to Elon Musk, founder of electric vehicle company Tesla: if science and technology continue to develop, will humans be able to create a virtual world in the future? At that moment, Elon Musk answered without hesitation that this world has only a 1 in a billion% chance of actually existing. So if the world is not real like Elon Musk's statement, then Pier Giorgio Merli's experiment and the case of Juliana are just a software error in the virtual world. And of course, only the awakened person noticed that the world was actually crazier than they imagined. If you had a choice, would you like to wake up? What do you think about all of these theories we mentioned above? Please leave your comment below. And support me by liking the video and clicking the subscribe button to see more videos. Thank you very much and see you next time.